And welcome back, everybody, to our first ever Law Talk segment here on RFL. We sent out political experts, kicked them out here, and in their place, the legal pros. James Kasouras here is the founder and principal of the law offices of James Kasouras, with locations Midtown, Manhattan, and Queens. Doug Von Oist, founding partner of Karsten Von Oist, LLP, is also head of the firm's New York office. Mayo Bartlett, founder of the law offices of Mayo Bartlett, LLC in White Plains, and former head of the Bias Crimes Unit in Westchester County DA's office. All right, that was free advertising for the three of you. Okay, let's first up here. This is a fascinating case here out of New Mexico, and I'm curious where the line starts and stops of freedom of both expression, but also where does discrimination start and stop. Professional photographer being sued for refusing a job to cover a same-sex ceremony. Now, the photographer says she simply does not believe in same-sex marriage or relationships. It's a religious objection, she claims, but the couple says she's in business, she's open to the public, and refusing the job on that basis is flat-out discrimination. I'll start with you, Doug. Where's the line start and stop here? Can't somebody say I should be able to pick my clientele, and if I have objections, religious or otherwise? Or does the couple say, just because I'm gay doesn't mean you don't take my photo?
Well, you asked where the line starts and stops, and I think the line keeps moving. And as culture and society moves, so does the line. So now we're at this line. It's clear that if this was for any other reason, if it was for, race, sex, ethnicity, it would be wrong. But now we're at the point where we're going to decide whether this is the line. And probably somebody made the same arguments she's making a long time with a lot of different groups. And so that's something we're dealing with.
In my former bias crime expert here, what's the distinction, or is there a distinction with a difference if she's open to the public versus a private kind of thing?
I think so, because when you're open to the public, again, you're putting yourself out there as a private organization or private entity, then you have more flexibility. But as attorneys, again, we can't refuse services to someone based upon their race, ethnicity, color, national origin, gender, anything like that. And when you think about it, really it's there to protect people who are, in the truest sense, the minority. And that could be anything. At some point it may be based on your race or your color. Another place it may be based upon your religion. It may even be based upon your religious practice. You may be of the same religion of the majority of your community, but practice differently. So if you, for instance, are an Orthodox Jew and you're in a community where it's predominantly Reform, you may be prevented from actually living in that community if all of the businesses say they're not going to serve you.
Devil's advocate, though. Somebody says, this is basically my faith, and my faith says that I just don't recognize here that there's an equity. There's also maybe alternatives for this person. If that's not the only photographer in town, the person does have remedy. They can go somewhere else. Can there be an argument made if that photographer walked in your office and said, Jim, I just don't want to do it. Nothing against them personally. I just don't believe in the institution that they want to basically subscribe to.
Well, once you put yourself out there as a public entity, you're a public business, you're out, you've got to sign up, you're open for business to the public. At that point, you cannot discriminate illegally against a part of the public. So you can't turn around and say, just because there's another photographer that may not want to discriminate against you, I can discriminate against you.
This one might have been easy. This one's a little tougher, and I'll stay with you, Jim. The fight against something called revenge porn. No one here is practicing. Every day, way too many people, though, they send naughty adult photos of themselves, for the life of me I don't understand why, to somebody else online. But what happens when that relationship goes south, or that person on the other end of the email or text turns out just to be a bad person? You get what's called revenge porn, in which that jerk uploads the photos or even the video to a website in an effort to embarrass the original sender. Okay, the two arguments is, one, hey, this is a private correspondence between, I almost said me and you. Let's go another way here.
I got that photo,
Thank
Rich.
you. Yes, exactly.
I don't want to see it.
No, and then the flip side, though, is time out. I have a freedom. We were both consensual in this. I should have a right here to express myself. Founding fathers maybe didn't have this in mind, but I have a right to express myself. And if it's in the form of a picture or a video that I was a consenting party to, why can't I?
Look, first of all, I just want to
He's
bring this
couching.
up.
You already know where this is going.
No.
Yes.
No, I want to bring this up. Let's all remember, if the movie was accurate, Facebook started as a revenge mechanism Somebody was scorned and wanted to create this forum in which people could talk badly about other people, and it was very, very, very hurtful. Then it became this great social media network with likes and dislikes and all this beautiful stuff.
And now terrific IPO
and now
with
we're
billions
coming,
of dollars.
and now we're coming right back to it being used for revenge. Look, I have to say this. If you're going to choose to tell your secrets to somebody, you just may be giving up that right to privacy. It's despicable for that person to then go out and post these things. But where do you draw the line? If somebody tells you their deepest, darkest secret, it can humiliate them to no end, and then you spread that.
Mayo, if somebody ends up suing somebody for taking a sex tape, let's say, and going out and commercializing and trying to sell it in the public, I know I've seen cases where they've lost. Does this all rest if money exchanges hands? Or what's the line here again as to what you can and can't do?
It's a civil suit, Reg.
Well, I think at the end of the day, though, once you go out and you put your business online and you set it out there, you lose your expectation of privacy. So even if we're walking around outside,
why shouldn't I have an expectation of privacy if it's a private correspondence between two people?
Well, because you're now putting it out there, and plus you're putting it out there in electronic media. You're giving it to someone. There's nothing contractual that says they can't use it for another purpose. Maybe if you have a contract that's signed that says something along those lines, then there's another story. But look at the kids today that grow up with Facebook and all of these social media outlets, Twitter. They grow up talking about everything in their entire life openly as if it's only between their friends. And then when they apply to college, all of a sudden, hey, admissions has this picture of me I sent out there.
You heard me saying, look at those kids today. All right, Grandpa Moses. to that end, though,
Yeah.
When do I have a right for an expectation of privacy?
Well, I think the bigger question here is, are we talking civilly or are we talking criminally? And if you're looking at this and the person's intent is to damage this person, is to hurt them, if there's a criminal statute involved, that's one thing. But civilly, if you do something to me and it's actionable, I can sue you. I can bring you to a court of law. I mean, at some point, the defenses are going to be, you took a picture of yourself, you let somebody take a picture of you. It's not like somebody snuck up behind you, was doing this from the stall next to you.
For the Clementi tragedy, we know that was surreptitiously recorded. There was a distinction. This was consensually, obviously.
I mean, the question is, are we going to criminalize meanness when there is a civil remedy? Are we going to change our behavior? We should change our behavior in the face of the
Jim, my
proliferation
friend,
of the
you
social
have led
media.
us where we'll get to a little bit later in this half hour, and that's bullying. And I have a feeling the three of you gentlemen may one day have cases relating to that if the trends continue. But when we come back, we're going to be talking about the Skakel case. And more than the case and the high-profile nature of it, if you saw the Times today, it raised a very real reality, if that is, and that is the best defense money can buy. I'm going to get these three pros to tell me what really money buys when it comes to justice. We'll talk about that right after this.